Atazoth is the Hierophant of the Dark Memes Tarot, of Drill Sergeant Grey Nexion, of Tempel of Blood. And in the Russian Federation Tarot, we have Atazoth listed as the Magician, which would be the head to the left shoulder. And we would list the other options as the right hand to the pelvis, or death, the right hand to the knees are the star, and the right shoulder to the pelvis are the emperor. And we see the words master linked to this as well. In your typical Order of Nine Angles literature, we have the 17th pathway being from Sun to Jupiter, and the Hierophant is listed, but we're giving it a different path here. And it's a card that very often has this triplicity thing listed. And in this case, we have the teen, or the child stage, wherein the mother stage are as Unicole Unicron in the 30s, looking up to the father stage are in the 20s. And there was a candle that said something like "she who was raised from certain death," or a sticker that was recommended to be on a candle, and I can't find any clear pictures of this, so I came up with my own. And I'm not making any claims about that specifically with the bottom picture, but another way to look at that is the Virgin, the mother or lover, and crone is another way to divide these stages of life. Unicole Unicron has been influenced heavily by Heaven's Gate, Jim Jones, Teal Swan, Charles Manson, and some other figures. But these are very specifically mentioned and can be brought up. Identifies as an Arcturian, which is, in a way of saying, a circus master, if you're going to give it a more character category interpretation of it, as a blue sort of alien. Interesting little painting that was done. And I myself have this idea of my soul, spirit, body, something as like this orange like thing. Of course, I know it's beyond what can be done with the painting stuff, so I don't even try that, and Noctulian, of course. So that's perhaps the interest of someone to respond to here with that. We can go into more of the scene. We have the bit off the website for Heaven's Gate. We have the television. We have, sitting on a rock over the waters, which is an important aspect. In the Colorado retreat, was it July or something like that of this year? That event was a visit to where it was said this person tried to commit suicide and saved from certain death was, I guess, the idea. Unicole Unicron doesn't use the Jim Jones phrase all is everyone's, uses all is one. Teal Swan, an individual that very much has liked to be objectified as part of not just attention seeking and validation that way, but as a way to influence. Probably the broadest figure as far as the types of things taught about as a sort of one-stop New Age guru. Teal Swan is far more in that category than anybody else, but Unicole Unicron goes further with that. Now, I don't think I have heard any reference of Unicole Unicron actually telling people to hurt themselves or kill themselves. I just know that it has happened with certain individuals after private communications. So we're not going to go there because they're not ready for that yet. But although Unicole Unicron, just like Charles Manson and Jim Jones, has encouraged certain drug use and the taking of certain substances that has been provided. So if something was going to go down, has established that trust. In the was it October event in Texas, Charles Manson and Jim Jones were both known for their relationships with their followers, which was sexual in nature, but it wasn't marriage sexual in nature. So there's that aspect. When we talk about Heaven's Gate, after Bonnie Nettles died, Marshall Applewhite took this position of celibacy and that sort of thing. In 1976, about 9 years before she died, he she divorced Joseph Siegel Nettles. But anyways, the guy you see on the television is Marshall Applewhite Jr. He was known as Doe. And they prepared their followers for ascension, to be more evolved than human, rather than just realize the human is this vehicle. And just like Unicole Unicron drew a lot of attention to a comet in 2020, all this, encouraged looking into Heaven's Gate and all that stuff. But the alien focus, like the aliens are going to come and they're going to teach us, and Unicole Unicron claims to be being taught by aliens as well. And I mean, Bo and Peep, Doe and T were also the names of Applewhite and Nettles. And they use different ones, but yeah, stepping aside from their sexuality was one of the things that they did in that group. Charles Manson didn't actually kill himself. And the 60s and 70s used sex, drugs, and music to control. He would not have been released on the street if there was a death penalty for rape, because he raped a guy in prison and they watched him rape a guy in prison. And they, you know, could have dealt with that and not released him to the public, so many of these individuals. But did he kill anybody himself? No. Was he right about some of the reasons to distrust the government? Yes. Is he talking about an apocalypse to come, just like Unicole Unicron in a November 18th tweet? It's only going to get more chaotic. The old systems must die for the new world to arise. Now, certainly we have to break through some illusion and delusion, it's called. I'm getting real negative on this series, so if you can't handle it, there's obviously think the other side. There's the other side of each of these things, because Atazoth and the other ones care more about, they're more amoral in a way, because it's that you're incarnating their will by doing or not doing things. It's not necessarily, it has to be all whatever, but certainly people in some situations that would be the way that they would go. But individual evolution. You want to be a person that controls the many factors, or you want to step aside from all these different factors. And Unicole Unicron uses a lot of music in order to brainwash, as it's called. And it's still brainwashing. It's still brainwashing, whether or not it is, known that one is being brainwashed. And Teal Swan, just like Unicole Unicron, has certain things about facial expression and other body language that doesn't match when these issues are made a general thing or about somebody else. And also inconsistencies and some changing stories and things as things go on. Sometimes people evolve and have certain realizations. I had that away team patch of the Heaven's Gate there. Teal Swan got therapy from Barbara W. Snow, which was one of the central figures of the satanic ritual abuse panic. Now, there really was satanic ritual abuse, but for the most part, if there was actual abuse rather than reprogrammed memories through drugs and therapeutic techniques, now, I don't think that that Teal Swan's recommendation to encourage people's own deaths by thinking of to picture your own death even by suicide as a therapeutic thing, that doesn't but yeah, there are aspects about some of these backstories that don't quite pan out. But before we go, yeah. So Barbara Snow, yeah, way too many of Barbara Snow's patients considered themselves to be sexually abused, to be physically abused at home and otherwise. And the method was so bad that, the Utah Division of Occupational and Professional Licensing, or whatever you call it, they put her on probation for this, for her method of treatment, because enough of it was shown to be fabricated memories or programmed memories. And Unicole Unicron, just like Teal Swan uses some costume, but Unicole Unicron takes it over the edge, has done more in terms of seeking to be objectified through, as I've pointed out, I didn't watch it. I'm not paying for some tape, even if I find it for sale for the same price, which is probably too much for so-called celebrity porn, right? But again, it's too. But for Unicole Unicron, it was part of the cult persona, and you look at let's turn back to that heal evil. It's set in that tone in the welcome tape. And evil's like in between the spaces, and it radiates and it permeates, and it's all the colors and light and dark and all shades, and and what, because evil's not strong enough. I don't know what's the deal there. Get all glitchy with the TV. Of course, some of the old recordings of the whole Heaven's Gate thing. Unicole Unicron really was a cheerleader. We're not going to go into legal names here. The Atazoth sigil, if it's the Hierophant replacing it at the summer solstice, which is typically thought of as fixed Earth. Of course, the lion has turned green, so the bowl is red. So using the flashing colors, we go into the red mode, and it goes away. Blue would be coming towards. So, we have sort of a spaceship amongst constellations, amongst space stations, or maybe other planets, or creeping forth from the stars sorts of feelings to the thing. You have the sign of Earth. But Earth is going to be changed. Earth and Moon are going to be changed by the twisting bit going in and towards it. Marcus Sykes, and with Unicole Unicron as vice president, got something like 131 votes in the 2020 presidential election. And I said in the Colorado retreat, they, so we got this water thing. So sort of there's a lot of drink some water during my camp church, sort of a religious service over the internet thing. A lot of stuff about crystals, so sitting on a mineral makes sense. Wood is kind of like between life and death in a way, and I can't, the tree by Teal Swan is definitely alive, but it's hard to tell with the wood by Unicole Unicron. And the posture, again, is indicating of ascension. We have sort of a Hierophant related posture with, well, older than as a cheerleader, but the cheerleader outfit. But yeah, whether many are going to achieve the thing, or whether one's just supposed to step aside and individuate that way, there's definitely a push for change on a large scale with Unicole Unicron. And so Master as a teacher definitely claims to be towards that direction. And of course, I added some pink in for towards the sky. Southern California, that makes sense. Unicole does not live in the porno capital of the United States. Oh, I forget, where is it? It's not you know, any of the others. Yeah, I don't, you know, I don't know where all that stuff comes from. Southern California, a lot of stuff. The OTO and Scientology are also influences. But as I said, we're trying to get beyond the modes, or try to operate in these areas maybe perhaps a bit differently, or at least more effectively. Now, in Aleister Crowley's way of thinking, the child stage is, you get independent morality and the ability to choose based on your circumstances. Because remember, the Hierophant is over the circumstances, or beyond the circumstances, or you're looking at the circumstances from a different perspective, other than just it. I mean, we're stuck in our physical circumstances, right? The mother stage in the center there is, the early childhood, where it's about the relationship skills, you could call it. The father stage, represented up top there, and perhaps the connection to the being as a whole, as in grabbing the tree, is the rules and the skills being developed. And then, of course, the child stage, you've hit puberty, and what you're going to develop further, what you're going to operate further, what you're going to step away from. That's up to you at that stage. It's your deal. The tree of teal swan, of course, would be the tree of disconnecting. Of course, there's more to that message than that. But this backdrop has a persona of like mystery, especially when we darken it into the Heaven's Gate website logo there. And the glitchiness and of some of those old videos, well, the degraded film quality of some of the old Heaven's Gate stuff represented by the TV there, because now I'm not saying to join any of these groups by this. I'm just saying symbolically, Unicole Unicron and these influences can connect to that Atazoth theme. And Unicole Unicron, last I heard of, still has a snake, so this snake-like little bit coming out of the diamond, the Atazoth sigil makes a lot of sense. The moon is the feminine symbol, I guess that also makes sense. You can connect that to there. I don't know what else to say. I think maybe I've been rambling about, because we have a whole series of figures, right? I didn't finish talking about Jim Jones really too much, but one knows about Jim Jones, sort of a communism thing, had people practice committing suicide and all that other stuff. Yeah, I'm not sure how much I said on which try of recording this program, but one can gain your own power with tradition and beyond tradition.